The time is just gone 8 minutes to 9 a.m. as we continue with the broadcast this morning, and it's the time of the week where we bring you Crime Talk with eThekwini Secure. And this morning we are joined by Mohammed Batman Ismail. Mohammed, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As always, welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah. Thank you very much for having us. I do appreciate it.
Yes, Mohammed, early on I was talking to Imran Mukaddam about gun wielding gangsters. And here we're talking about repairs that were taking place on the Western Cape train lines. And they've been targeting PRASA because they've been taken out. They wanted apparently a cut out of the security contracts on Cape Town's railways. Now, here we're talking about gangsters and we're talking about anarchy. And I think, a lot of fingers were pointed at our security apparatus for their failure to act. And what we want to talk about today is, I would say, related to an extent, because every time there is protest action, okay, we find that it actually gets to a stage where there is anarchy, there is mayhem, there is destruction of property, people's lives are being coming under threat as well when this happens. And again, the failure on the part of authorities to act in situations like this moment.
Well, I caught a part of the show there, and the one word that's very strong, and I also wanted to bring up this morning, is anarchy. And we are in a state of anarchy. The issue is that, can state security agencies handle this? Are they properly equipped, or are they just favoring people to carry on and do what they want to do with it? And South Africa is steeped in anarchy, and it's shocking to see that such actions can continue in an organized way. And here we're talking about organized crime, if you want to call it that, organized anarchy that's just causing South Africa to sink into an abyss of no return. So what really is being done about it by the state, and who is footing this bill at the end of the day? Because you must remember, when there's protests, infrastructure is completely destroyed. And after that, who foots the bill? It's the ratepayer, and the ratepayer is being affected by this. Now you've got two extremes. You've got the ratepayer, and you've got those who are protesting who don't pay for any services. And when this happens, is the state or the municipality or whoever it is favoring one section of the community as opposed to the other, or are they looking after the interest of everybody at the same time? So I'm saying there's a gross failure on the part of authorities to keep things in check and in line. How can you allow gangsters to take over a contract? How can you allow for people to come into a building site and take over? How can you allow organized anarchy in the state of in the state of protests that happen so often? And we've seen the history here in South Africa. The protests, it's like it's a norm. It's been normalized. And when people start saying, "Hey, there's a protest happening," oh, okay, gosh, just another protest. Let's see what happens after that. But where does it go to, and where does it end, and when is it going to end? That's the questions we need to ask.
Well, this is a valid question in terms of when it's going to end, but if it is allowed to get out of hand because of the failure on the part of the security apparatus and the authorities to act in situations like this, it is never going to end. And this came out very, very strongly even last night in my discussion when we were talking about illegal property. Occupations, invasions, trespassing, and the first point of call has been the South African Police Services, it's been the authorities, and it seems to be a common theme in everything that we're talking about, whether we're talking about housejackings, whether we're talking about what happened in Cape Town yesterday, and the issues surrounding protests. This is the same thing that we're talking about over and over again, Mohammed.
Oh, absolutely, United. And the thing is, how is it going to be addressed? Do we want to be part of a sustainable solution on both ends of the ruler, or not? Do the protesters want to be part of a sustainable solution where they enter into negotiations with state organs and quell the whole thing and say, okay, we want this, and if this doesn't happen, then we need to look at other options? But the destruction of infrastructure is highly unacceptable at a point. And I think last week's show we did speak about it, to say there are other ways of protest, and that if you need to protest, and then you get ratepayers associations who wield the power to deal with what they want to deal with and how they should be dealing with things in enforcing the state's hand, but they're not exercising their power. And you're allowed to have ratepayers associations. You need to do those things. But again, it goes back to the normalization of societies. And even as you know, as eThekwini Secure, we sit on community police forums, and crime, for example, has become the norm. So it's normalized. It's normal to hear of a hijacking. It's normal to hear of a home invasion. Again, the question that always comes up in any of our WhatsApp groups or any point in time, if you speak to somebody on the road, they ask you, what is the police doing about it? So what is the police doing about it, and how far can they go, and what powers do they have to exercise in terms of stopping these things? You see, so there's limitations. The limitations are great. And let's talk about building hijackings or hijackings of vacant buildings, for example. What happens is you can't have those people evicted. You can't throw them out. And even if you go there with police, and even if you go there with Metro Police, for example, they can't enter the property without a warrant. So again, there's a lot of times where state security agencies are rendered powerless. And where does this come from? It comes from the top. And what are we going to do about this to improve the situation? And that is what's worrying me, greatly. So the normalization, in the old days, when, we spoke about SECOs, they said no sport in an abnormal society until the
I
normalization
recall.
came.
I recall.
So we
Hassan
need to
Hoa.
yes, remember that the great anti-apartheid activists in that. So we're living in an abnormal society that has sort of accepted what is wrong as normal. So are we just sick? What is the story? What is going on? I don't know. And I don't even want to say it's the signs of Qiyamah or anything. We don't even enter that debate, Inayat, but it's sick, twisted community, society that we are living in where these things are happening. And that's why at the end of the day, we have an exodus, a mass exodus of professionals. And South Africa becomes weaker and weaker and weaker every single day as we move along. And then you find you don't have enough doctors, you don't have enough lawyers, you don't have this, you don't have that. And we sit back and complain. But what is the root cause of all of this, and how is it going to be fixed?
Well, and also, the cost factor, and you alluded to that earlier on. At what cost, and who is actually footing this bill?
The ratepayers. The ratepayers is footing this bill. And that's why you find there's always an increase in rates, and there's always some reason to justify an increase in rates because infrastructure is being destroyed, and you need to find money somewhere along the line to fix this up. Uh, let's break away from protests for a moment. Let's talk about let's talk about infrastructure like street lights, for example. Here in eThekwini, we have 30,000 outstanding work dockets to fix light poles. Why is that? Because every single light pole is being stripped of cables and is being sold to second-hand dealers. And that's what's happening. And that's costing us a lot of money. So 30,000 light poles. Streets are left in darkness. Crime can escalate at any given time because of that. And that's a serious problem. So 30,000 is going to take up between 3 and 6 months to repair, if not longer. And it's costing millions and millions of rands as it goes along. By the department's own admission, I mean, there's billions of rands that's needed to fix the infrastructure, starting with the light poles. So are these people who are being caught, being arrested, are the charges being laid by the municipality? No, there's no charge. So these guys go off and they do exactly what they want to do. And there is no sort of backbone to go and investigate second-hand dealers or people in informal settlements where we had information where these cables and stolen water meters and everything is going to. But are arrests being effected? No. But they're getting away with crime. And the bottom line is that criminals are getting away with crime, destroying the infrastructure that costs ratepayers millions of rands every single month. That's the problem. And that needs to be rectified.
Well, Mohammed, Jazakallah, as always, for your time. And I know this is not the end of this discussion that we're having. There's just so much more to unpack. But for now, as always, we wish you all the best. Assalamu alaikum wa
Jazakallah.
rahmatullahi
Wa
wa
alaikum
barakatuh.
assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Mohammed Batman Ismail with us this morning. eThekwini Secure. We're heading straight for the news. We've got Zahid Jedward standing by.